Hi, guys. Nick is coming in a moment.
Cool.
And I will go ahead and see if I can assign this. All right, I'm going to leave the meeting, Dino. If you get white screen again, or if Brian, if you get white screen again, let me know and I'll hop back in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. I need to do a background then like that.
Fellas,
There he is.
am I late?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I just got done doing something for the Olympics here in the studio, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's amazing. All of a sudden, the Olympics became like really unimportant.
We got Olympics, Browns training camp, Indians changing their name. This is just crazy. Ben, how we doing? I can't hear Ben.
Yeah, you're muted, Ben.
I believe we're live.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we are live, guys. So let's jump right into it. We bid you all good afternoon, everyone. We welcome to a special 3 News Sports exclusive, along with Ben Axelrod and Nick Camino. I'm Dave DeNatale. Yes, indeed, the Cleveland Indians do have a new nickname. They're going to become the Cleveland Guardians starting in 2022. Official announcement coming up in about 25 minutes. And let me get top-line reactions, starting with you, Ben.
Yeah, I think not entirely surprising because this is one of the names that we had heard from the start. This was something that people speculated about, something people pitched. Certainly, doing the betting odds, it was always up there with some of the historic names like the Spiders and the Naps. I think maybe that's where the surprising part is usually these announcements come and it's something out of left field and something that not everybody was talking about. But this is a name people were certainly talking about. And, I think the reaction is largely mixed. I think I see a little more positive than negative. There's some questions about the logos and things of that nature. And I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute here. But, ultimately not. I think any surprise that I have is from the fact that I was expecting to be more surprised, I guess.
By you, Nick.
I know Ben's a big uniform guy, so I think we need him to look at these logos. Maybe we could tweak them a little bit if we have to. As Ben said, and Dino, you know this too, the name Guardians always seemed like it was near the top of what people wanted. Now, the thing with things like these, when you make a decision to do this and then you make the change, everyone you hear from is going to be upset because they wanted something else or they thought something was great. So to me, it's amazing that Ben, what you said, that more of the reaction has been positive than negative. That's good. I mean, I think that in that sort of instance, you probably made the right decision. These are the types of decisions that people need to warm up to. It'll take some time. Once they have a hat or a shirt, things will change a little bit. But hey, the bottom line is we love the baseball team here in Cleveland. A lot of people that were born and raised here grew up rooting for a team that was a different name, at the time. But things change. And I think that people are going to be excited once the team is on the field playing baseball. I did have one stat I wanted to say, because this is a monumental day. Last time a Major League Baseball team completely changed their name, it was 1965. That went from the Colt 45s to the Astros. So, that's not counting the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, who dropped the Devil part of their name when they came in. It was 1996. So there's a lot of history here, but it's an exciting day. It's a new chapter, certainly, for Cleveland Guardians baseball.
The timing. The two of you surprised that obviously word had gotten leaked out. I mean, I think word had gotten leaked out even before Paul Hoynes had it yesterday that the decision had been made. It had seemed like this might get put off till the end of a season and maybe into the off season, maybe into next year. But apparently they got the data that they wanted to get, and maybe this wasn't how they wanted to announce it this hastily, but here we are.
It wasn't the recent losing lately, was it? They had to or last night's game, which was a tough one to swallow. Now you wonder what goes into this, the timing part of it when it's released. There's people that are much smarter than me that make those decisions. But I was thinking about last night. I said, God, that game was so tough against Tampa. It's not a bad time maybe to drop the name, but as we know, and as people may have heard me say at the beginning of this, when I didn't know we had started, you've got the name change, you got the Olympics starting, Browns training camp is here. It's a crazy time for us. Yeah, NBA draft. I mean, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and that's to that end, like I'm used to at this point, a year and a half into COVID, timing being all screwed up for everything. I mean, we just finished the NBA Finals in mid-July. We have the NBA draft coming up next week. And I think if you look back to the timing of when the Indians first announced that they were exploring their name, it was about a year ago. I think it was July 2nd, maybe, of last year. So it's always, I think, complicated because for between stuff, you need to get ahead of it because that stuff needs to be ready in time for next season. And if you don't announce it, then maybe you risk it leaking between now and then. So, I mean, it's a little weird now that we know the name and they're still going to play, the second half of the season here as the Cleveland Indians. But it's just one of those things where, if they wanted to announce it themselves, which credit to them, this didn't leak. This is something that they were able to kind of surprise everybody with this morning. I think this is kind of the time frame in which they had to do it.
I thought it might take longer because of everything we've seen with the Washington football team. Since they made their transition, I mean, from all indications are that they're going to play as the Washington football team this upcoming NFL season. So now you're going on 2 full seasons and almost 2 full off seasons of when they made their switch. So I think the Indians did this relatively quickly. It's going to take me forever to drop that. We only called them that for 100 years. For the Guardians to finally, for us to get used to that.
By the way, the official announcement coming at the top of the hour at 2:00. You'll be able to watch it on Channel 3 on 3 News, and you'll be able to see it in all of our digital platforms, WKYC.com, our WKYC app, as well as Facebook Live and YouTube. Ben, you wrote today both about the uniforms and also about the logo and how the appearance of the Guardians moniker, so to speak. They decided to keep the colors. I almost feel like this went back to the Browns. We keep the name, we keep the colors. They keep the colors. A lot of the things look the same. So from a familiarity standpoint, it's at least starting out going to be something to the eye that's familiar to fans.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if that's why this didn't take as long as maybe we anticipated it might, because there seemed to, be a very conscious effort here to not stray too far away, or at least to keep this as familiar as possible to the fan base. I mean, the Indians released uniform mock-ups for the Guardians that you can see on WKYC.com. And if you look at, there's a picture of Franmil Reyes in the Navy one. It looks basically like what the Indians Navy uniforms look like now. I mean, I almost, as a uniform geek, wish they would have done something just like a little bit more different to differentiate that these are the Guardians and not still the Indians. But you look and I mean, the home uniforms are still a white uniform with a red script. The away uniforms are still gray with blue font and red trim. They still have a red alternate. They still have a navy alternate. They still have a C logo. It's a different font, but it's still, instead of a block C, it's a diamond C. So really, I mean, they tried to keep this as familiar as possible, which, maybe in the future we'll get something a little more Guardian centric. There is the new G logo, which is different, and I believe is going to be the patch on the uniform. But all things considered, this is a pretty, Guardian, they have the last 5 letters, Guardians, Indians, all the same. So keeping slider, most importantly of all. So this should be a very familiar look for Cleveland baseball fans.
Yeah, I was thinking about the cost that might go into it. If all of a sudden your colors were green and yellow or something, is there more cost involved? How different would it look if you change like 2 of the primary colors? There's still red, white, and blue, which might eventually, as we were talking about at the beginning, might actually make it a smoother transition for some of the fans that might be upset today.
Yeah. Nick Camino, I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, because it's kind of how I felt about. I feel like I had an epiphany a few days ago, and all of a sudden, the in the bigger picture, it's more important that this franchise at some point is going to hopefully lock up a long-term lease, remain at Progressive Field, hopefully get a minority owner in place, and get that new funding revenue stream to ownership and things like that. To me, that's more important than the nickname. But I wonder if, and this may be a conspiracy theory in me, that one of the things that the Dolans had to do in order to attract a potential minority sponsor was a minority owner, I should say, not sponsor, minority owner, was get this process rolling to the point where somebody comes aboard and this has been finalized.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Dino. And I think the fact that you picked a Cleveland-centric kind of name, right? We all believe Guardians has to do with Cleveland, right? I mean, everything that's gone into that name. So maybe that's another step in saying, hey, we're here to stay. Let's get this lease all figured out. And if we bring a minority owner in, they know that we're here to stay and to, to represent Cleveland and Northeast Ohio and baseball fans from here and fans that have moved away. So, I think that the nickname plays into that a little bit. But you're right, Dino, in terms of where the nickname is on the points of importance, I'd say the lease and that sort of thing is higher up for sure. But this is fun for us and the fans.
Ben, do you any thoughts on that particular point?
Yeah, just as far as it being a local name, that was one thing when this was being speculated about more than a year ago, changing the name to Guardians. I guess that's something I kind of wrestled with is, the Guardians of Transportation out there on Hope Memorial Bridge. It's not like it's the Empire State Building. It's not like it's the Statue of Liberty. I'm not sure people in Iowa know what the Guardians mean to Cleveland, but I think it's actually pretty cool that they went with something local. They went with something a little more niche here. And, I really like that aspect of it. And you look right outside Progressive Field. I mean, I've made the walk up those stairs plenty of times. You look right outside, you see the Guardians. So just as far as it being a local name, I guess that's going back to whether I was surprised or not. I guess it did surprise me that they stayed with something so local, but at the end of the day, I think that's kind of a cool aspect of this.
And it might be good news for your question, Dino. I mean, to your point exactly, it could be a big reason why.
Yeah, and the potential tie-in to the Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, I mean, the possibilities there. I mean, can we please get like Zoe Saldana and Chris Pratt and Batista to come out and throw the first pitch next year? I mean, that would be nice.
Hey, that's I've seen weaker tie-ins before in sports. So
yes,
if you get Dave Batista out there on the mound, I'm all for it.
I figured you would. Did you guys have it just for fun? Was there a preferred name for the two of you? With all the names that have been thrown out there and all the potentials, was there any like leaders for the two of you that you had been rooting for?
I was trying to go for like a super safe choice that I didn't think could ever be changed and that we've seen in baseball. So I kind of went with Blue Sox, but everybody that I talked to about Blue Sox said that was really lame. So I didn't know. So I was like, well, what do you want to call them? I didn't know what to call them. So this also feels pretty safe. And the fact that it has a Cleveland angle to it, I'm on board with it. And all the people that are like, well, this is a terrible name. Well, this is an impossible process. What did the Indians say they had when it all started? Like 5,000 different names or something like that they had to choose from. I mean, this sort of thing, it is impossible to make everybody happy.
I was partial to the Cleveland baseball team, taking the Washington football team route. I just kind of liked being able to keep the continuity. It's going to be a little messy now, when you bring back Jim Thome, when you bring back Kenny Lofton, when you bring back some guys, are they Indians legends? Are they Guardians legends? But you could just say Cleveland baseball legend, which I guess you could still do now with a new name. So I guess, especially if the logo or if the logo and the uniforms and the colors are all still the same. So I was partial to that, but as far as picking a real name here, this is pretty good. I think ultimately, if you weren't going to choose, Spiders or Naps, which I wasn't really a huge fan of just because, that's already been a part of this team's history. I think you want to create your own history here. I think Guardians is pretty much, as safe and as good as they could have gotten.
And last thing, guys, as we wrap up again, the Indians will officially announce becoming the Guardians at 2:00. You'll be able to watch it on Channel 3 and let's see it on all of our digital platforms. Going to be pressure, you think, on the Kansas City Chiefs, the Atlanta Braves, the Florida State Seminoles at some point? They've been, the Dolans were very quick once the pressure kind of mounted on the Washington Redskins, as they were known, to change. And of course, they became, as Ben mentioned, the Washington football team. The Dolans were very, Paul Dolan was very quick to put out there that, hey, we're looking at this. And about a year later, here we are with the Guardians. I just wonder if other franchises are going to follow the lead or continue to stay status quo and see how long they can go with it before pressure turns.
I think ultimately now that, the Indians have changed their name and they're, going to change their name next season, I think, probably it's natural to consider, which names could change next. And those are probably the names that stand out the most are the ones you mentioned. I don't think, I think the Indians sticking with Chief Wahoo for as long as they did, I think through the 2017 or 2018 season, that probably didn't do them any favors in terms of just keeping the pressure on them and kind of keeping the eyeballs on them. But now that the Indians are becoming the Guardians, it probably is only natural to think about what's next. And you probably will see pressure on some of these other franchises with names that have nods to Native American history.
In terms of that topic, we know Cleveland's out of the spotlight now. I think that's probably a sense of relief for ownership and people in the front office, no doubt.
Yeah, they can get from that standpoint a little bit of peace and quiet going forward. All right, we'll all be watching again. Coming up at the top of the hour, the Indians will officially announce that they are becoming the Cleveland Guardians starting in 2022. Make sure you watch here at WKYC.com. WKYC app, Facebook Live, YouTube, and as well at Channel 3. Nick Camino, Ben Axelrod, thank you, gentlemen, for your perspectives. We appreciate it.